continue to fight this battle, you and I, all of us, against this unseen enemy of COVID-19 and the various variants and its unprecedented damage to businesses and to the economy. And I really wish we were all together under one roof, interacting personally with one another, exchanging notes, ideas, business cards, and emails. But you know what? Maybe that might happen in the 12th, 13th, or 14th E-TalkTales. It won't be at E-TalkTales anymore, but a TalkTales. We will be meeting face-to-face in a venue. So hopefully soon, maybe when we have herd immunity before the end of the year, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Well, today we mark the 11th edition, as mentioned by James, of this event. And we have a truly very interesting topic to discuss with our esteemed speakers for today and panelists. Our discussion is of immense importance, especially when viewed in the prism of this ongoing health crisis that we are currently in right now. And the Philippines has one of the lowest insurance penetration rates in the region. And this means that many Filipinos have no protection at all once a crisis strikes them or their families. And good thing, institutions like UBX are using the latest technologies and building comprehensive partnerships to create embedded insurance solutions that basically aim to get more people insured. Maybe increase it to 2%, 3%, or even 4%, 5%, and that will be a major achievement. And now, to help us understand the idea of embedded solutions, of course, we have a very important guest with us this morning. He is the president and CEO of UBX. He's also popularly known as Mr. John J. Is no less than Mr. Januszczak, John Januszczak, President and CEO of UBX, for his presentation. Over to you now, John J., for this very interesting presentation that we are all awaiting.
Rico, I appreciate the very kind introduction. It's a privilege. It's a real privilege to have you moderating today's event. Maraming salamat at magandang umaga sa lahat. UBX, to remind everybody, all of our guests, UBX is the financial technology venture studio and venture fund spun out of Unionbank, the digital leader amongst universal banks in the Philippines. At UBX, our vision is opportunity and access for all. Our mission is to connect digitally and financially underserved communities by aggregating, virtualizing, and embedding open financial services through technology into the experiences and activities that truly matter to individuals and businesses. We have done this through our award-winning platform, payments platform, Bucks. We have processed over 3.5 billion pesos worth of loan applications for SMEs, a perennially digitally and financially underserved community, on our Ccap lending platform. We have partnered with government to deliver relief digitally to hundreds of thousands of Filipinos using our blockchain-based pipeline network. And we make it possible for businesses to start selling online in literally minutes with our simple and free central online store and marketplace builder, critically important during the pandemic. But today, we share Assured, the future of insurance. At UBX, our goal is simple: include everyone. Now, Rico, we often talk about the unbanked and the underbanked in the Philippines, where upwards of 70% of the population is without a formal bank account. What we do not talk enough about is the unprotected and underprotected in the Philippines. Insurance plays a critical role in protecting society, businesses, and individuals from financial loss, and to help them recover when such loss or damage occurs. Yet, as Insurance Commissioner Attorney Funa shared pre-pandemic, lack of coverage for healthcare alone pushes an estimated 1.5 million Filipino families into poverty each year. And I can only imagine how this statistic has evolved during the pandemic. An average hospital stay in the Philippines could easily set you back 2,500 pesos a night at a private hospital, while an ICU stay could easily cost over 30,000 pesos a night. The Philippine National Demographic and Health Survey found that private insurance covered a total of only 1.9% of Philippine households. Rico, I humbly suggest that we do not have a protection gap, we have a protection crisis. The economists like to measure insurance penetration by premiums as a percentage of GDP. Pre-pandemic, for the Philippines, it stood at only 1.69%. Compare that with our ASEAN peers, 3.23% in Indonesia, almost 5.4% in Thailand, and over 2% in Vietnam. And this doesn't even compare to the more developed economies. So why is this? Why is this? First of all, I would like to dispel one myth. Filipinos, while grossly unprotected and underprotected, they do understand the value of shared risk and insurance. The spirit of bayanihan and schemes like paluwagan mimic that of mutual benefit societies, literally the precursors of the modern insurance industry. So what is really the problem? I would suggest the following: discovery, packaging, and distribution. You have to make it easier for consumers to discover the value of insurance. And insurance is obvious when it is hyper-personalized and offered in a hyper-relevant context. Packaging. Products are often too complicated, predicated on old sales models with corresponding jargon that inevitably develops over the years. Often what is sold is in many cases essentially the same kind of product that my own parents bought over 50 years ago. What is equally concerning is the suboptimal impact that the complexity has, not just on customers, but potentially on insurance agents and advisors. It's a challenge to be trained on and sell complex products. Increasingly, customers are only willing to buy well-designed, simple solutions. We need to break down insurance into simple, bite-sized pieces. And lastly, distribution. Traditional intermediaries such as agents, brokers, and bank partners have only so much reach without leveraging digital. On top of this, distribution via these traditional channels requires higher value products to be economically feasible. The cause of traditional sales channels is noble, but ultimately only economically feasible for the more affluent in our society. And yet, digital platforms are acquiring customers at scale, while more and more facilitating the activities and experiences that truly matter to us as individuals and businesses. And this is UBX Assured, making it possible to embed insurance and protection into the activities and experiences that truly matter. Let's take insurance from limitation to liberation. How are we doing this? We're doing it in two ways. One, by taking monolithic, complex, expensive products from insurers and disaggregating them into simple and affordable condition or context-specific offerings. For example, dengue or simple income protection products and sachet-sized coverage, such as micro-term products for under 50 pesos a month. These kinds of simple products lend themselves to direct and digital distribution. And two, providing a single platform, a single API that makes it easy for developers, digital applications, and communities to aggregate and customize protection across multiple insurance providers, multiple condition and context-specific cover into hyper-personalized insurance for their customers, seamlessly embedded into the activities enabled on their platforms. Assured leverages on new customer behavior brought about by digitization to introduce protection. Digital natives engage with companies in new and different ways. With the emergence of subscription models like Netflix and Spotify, the sharing economy like Airbnb and Grab, digital payments, including UBX's own award-winning Bucks platform, crypto, non-fungible tokens, and more recently, play to earn. Insurance likewise needs to be digitally native. With Assured, we embed relevant protection products into these digital journeys with simple, easy to understand value and bite-sized premiums. Let me share a few examples of how Assured will start to embed insurance in ways attuned to the Filipino lifestyle. For example, online shopping. The Philippines e-commerce market for consumer goods grew to 200 billion pesos in 2020. With this comes the risk of mishaps in delivery. Imagine protection for loss or damage in transit, extendable returns, and failed delivery baked directly into the online shopping experience. For MSMEs, in 2020, the Philippine Statistics Authority recorded close to 1 million MSMEs operating in the country. Running a small business requires tremendous effort and focus, and yet one small misstep or unfortunate event could lead to a direct loss of income, or even worse, wipe out the entire business. With Assured, we aim to introduce MSMEs to insurance with coverage that is relevant, seamlessly integrated into the activities that truly matter to them, like managing their inventory, buying products, and paying staff. In 2019, the Department of Health reported almost 500,000 dengue cases in the country. Dengue impacts both children and adults. With a very small premium, customers can avail of protection for medical expenses related to dengue. Simply embedded into everyday experiences like purchasing necessities to cover basic family needs or making a remittance to a loved one. Before the pandemic, there were 7 million registered motorcycles in the country. And now with the pandemic, many have turned to delivery services and a reliance on motorcycles, both as consumers and workers via the gig economy. Courier service platforms can embed accident, income protection, and other cover as a value add to attract drivers and gig workers to their platforms. It can embed with other financial services, like insuring motorcycle loans, which in turn can be embedded into these platforms through UBX's own Ccap SME lending platform. Assured aims to provide protection on your mobile device, for example, by embedding cyber and fraud protection into your online financial transactions. And lastly, as a digital platform, Assured will also make it possible to embed new digital services into how protection is delivered when needed, such as automatic payouts triggered by digitally monitored events, and virtual services like telemedicine, digitally enabled, digitally delivered, and imminently practical given our recent experience with the pandemic. These are just but a handful of the experiences where customers will benefit from an embedded insurance experience. For developers and platforms, customer acquisition and retention is key. With growing competition, relevant embedded insurance adds to the value proposition of their product or service. For example, between e-commerce platforms and marketplaces with price and service parity, a customer will naturally lean towards a seller providing a delivery guarantee. While it seems straightforward to work with insurance companies to embed this kind of protection in their platforms, it requires time, effort, and a heavy evaluation on finding and tailoring the right products and partners. At Assured, we help developers, platforms, and digitally enabled businesses develop an insurance strategy, making it easy to find the right insurance partners and providing the technology to deliver on their customer promise through a simple and single API. Because of this, they improve customer engagement with hyper-personalized offerings while generating additional revenue through relevant and bite-sized insurance products. And lastly, Assured allows insurers to piggyback on the motivation that has driven the customer to buy another product or service on another platform. Leveraging the power of popular brands, platforms, and their data provides intimate knowledge of customers that can be used to bundle and underwrite products, positively impacting retention and revenue while solving distribution inefficiencies. It's a new way for insurance to grow and thrive. At Assured, we work with insurance companies to introduce them to new digitally enabled distribution partners, bringing access to larger customer bases. We bridge both insurance companies and digital platforms to develop new protection coverage tailor-fit for their customers. Assured leverages on our experience with our other UBX ventures and platforms, providing direct and AI-enabled insights on customer behaviors from other platforms in payment, open banking, lending, e-commerce, and digital marketplace building. These insights are used for customer propensity modeling and optimized underwriting. We have partnered with Coherent, a global insurtech, to provide additional technology that drives agility within the insurer's product development and implementation lifecycle, reducing time to market for insurance companies so that they can digitally transform from within while taking advantage of digital distribution and servicing through embedded insurance. We are piloting Assured with UBX's own I2I platform. I2I is leading the open finance revolution in the Philippines, connecting hundreds of banks and community-based financial service providers and thousands of independent bank agents to each other, to the national retail payment systems, and to the largest remittance channels. I2I provides interoperability among financial service providers with payments, disbursements, collections, and real-time transfer facilities. This in turn gives more Filipinos, often in underserved provincial or remote locations, improved and accessible financial services driven by technology. With Assured, we embed Bills Protect for customers who pay their bills with our partner bank and community-based financial service providers. With Bills Protect, a customer can pay 2% of their total bill at the time of bill payment, and they'll be provided with personal accident coverage. In the event of an unfortunate accidental death, the policyholder's family will receive up to 36 times the amount of the bill paid as a lump sum. For example, for only 60 pesos on a 3,000 peso bill, the lump sum benefit is 108,000 pesos. Easy, accessible insurance baked into an activity or an experience that matters, in this case, paying your utility bill. This pilot is made possible with our insurance partner, Chubb. Chubb is one of the largest publicly traded property and casualty insurers in the world, with operations in 54 countries and territories. Chubb is one of the leading global insurance companies in partnership distribution. And our technology partner, Coherent, based in Hong Kong, helps insurance providers go digital. A leading global insurtech, they have worked with over 30 insurers in 10 global markets in 2020 alone. And let me just end with a story, a true story. In January of 2019, a newlywed Pinoy couple drowned, unfortunately, very tragic, while snorkeling in the Maldives. Without protection, their friends had to resort to setting up a GoFundMe campaign to repatriate their remains. Compare that experience to the unfortunate death of the Filipino blogger Lloyd Cadena. The insurance that was embedded into his home loan meant that his family avoided the hardship of paying for the housing loan after his death. Like Lloyd, we will protect more Filipinos by embedding simpler, relevant, affordable protection through digital platforms directly into the everyday activities and experiences that matter. Opportunity, access, and now protection for all. Thank you, Rico.
Thank you so much, John Jay. That was a truly insightful presentation about Assured. Let's now delve deeper into this topic. And now we are joined by the partners of UBX in this initiative. Let me call on now John Brisco, Chief Executive Officer of Coherent, and Glen Browne, Deputy Regional President for Asia Pacific of Chubb. John B., Glen, thank you so much for joining us on this 11th edition of the E-TalkTales.
Thank you, Rico. Pleasure.
So, John B., let me start off with you. As mentioned by John J., Coherent helps insurance providers go digital. Tell us, how do you allow insurance providers to digitize their back-end operations? What are the tools?
Yeah, so without getting too complex, what we're trying to do is helping insurers who have a lot of data, a lot of rules, a lot of logic, and then trying to make it much easier for them to bring their products, their underwriting models, their claims models, and then integrate into the UBX ecosystem. So we're acting as almost like a facilitator between UBX and the insurers, so that all the kind of the data that has to interact between an insurer and UBX is as consistent and seamless as possible. And by doing that, consumers win, because ultimately they only have to input the information in the same way, one way. And that makes life easier for everyone, and makes life easier for UBX, makes life easier for consumers, and then makes more insurance be accessible to anyone. And going back to John's point, that's the way to how we help more people get insurance moving forward.
And Glen, Chubb is the world's largest publicly traded property and casualty insurer. What are the services offered in Assured?
Can we?
I think Rico, I don't want to sound repetitive on what my fellow panelists have said, but really within Assured, it's bringing the complexity of traditional insurance into those bite-sized chunks that John Jay mentioned, and in a very accessible and easy to understand way. For so many years in Asia, insurance has been seen as something extremely complicated, delivered by very traditional sales agents or bank channels. And when we first partnered with UBX and Coherent in this, and we saw the opportunity to really help communicate to a broader population those protection needs, no matter what we do in any other country, it doesn't matter. What we could do here with this team into the Philippines is what was most important and attractive for us.
And John Jay, of course, many Filipinos perceive insurance as complicated and confusing. And, as you mentioned during your presentation, Assured is heavily dependent on technology and the internet. And a lot of Filipinos, a majority of the 110 million Pinoys, especially those who are uninsured, have little to no access to the web. So how will you be able to reach this group, to be able to increase the insurance penetration in the country?
Well, actually, I would suggest that the majority of Filipinos actually do have access to the internet. Maybe not as high as other developed nations, but clearly the under-penetration or the unpenetration covers a very large base of the Filipino population that do have access. Everybody knows that mobile and smartphone penetration is growing at a very rapid pace in the Philippines. And at the same time, now we have a third telco entering the mobile space. So the coverage is going to expand. And so we will leverage on that to be able to bring insurance through embedded propositions to a greater part of the population. And in true Filipino resiliency, we also do very interesting things, Rico. So for example, I alluded to our Eye-to-Eye platform. We have engineered, for example, the applications that the independent bank agents on the Eye-to-Eye platform, we have engineered those to work in, for example, a 2G environment. We have enabled them to work offline and to sync up when and if a connection occurs. So I believe that the coverage, is big enough to present a very large opportunity. And even where there is connectivity issues, while those are being solved by the telcos and those buildings infrastructure that like I said, some very creative ways to make sure that our digital platforms can cover the greatest number of Filipinos, whether it's a poor connection or a case where the connection is flawed.
And as you mentioned about the telcos, your audio is a bit choppy, John Jay. It's a bit choppy at the moment. Yeah. So of course.
So maybe Rico, and maybe I kind of attest to what John was trying to say.
Okay, go ahead, John.
If you kind of look at the three parties involved here, you have Chubb, who are bringing amazing products to the Philippine society in a way which they can consume in a way which they can actually transact on. UBX is bringing an experience.
Let me start. I'll share a couple models. Maybe Glen and John can also share some experience from the global markets that they serve. So number one, it really needs to be embedded into the activity that matters. And I know we've said that multiple times already today. But paying a bill matters. I want my electricity. I want my television. I want my mobile. I want my mobile phone. I want to keep using it. So paying a bill matters. Making it as simple as opting in for a bill protection that costs, just a few pesos. But in the unlikely event that something happens, I'm actually fully protected. That's what makes it so easy. It's only a few pesos, and you actually get meaningful protection to cover those unlikely but eventually devastating events. That's one model. The other model is something that I alluded to in the presentation. It may be that the digital platforms themselves will embed the insurance into their value proposition. So in effect, they're paying for it, but they're doing it because it enhances the value of their product. So the consumer, without even thinking about it, is protected because it's part of the service. So I talked about, for example, I'm becoming a gig worker. I'm going to drive for the Rico Hizon delivery company.
Okay.
And
nice
you want to attract drivers. You're competing with Grab and Mr. Speedy and others. And you embed basic income protection for your drivers, for your gig workers. And now you have a differentiator from in this case from a talent acquisition perspective. So that's another way that insurance will be embedded. In that case, without the insured, even having to do anything.
Yeah, and I think, Rico, if you kind of think about the proposition here, so UBX is trying to think about the experience of the consumer. Chubb is providing world-class products to fit into that experience. And then Coherent's bringing technology to enable that to happen. And I think that's a very unique proposition, which doesn't really exist across many markets in the world. And I think that's the opportunity here in the Philippines, as John outlined at the start of the presentation. There's such a big under-insured population. There's families that need to get covered. There's different sort of coverage needs which just aren't covered. So we have to find better experiences, because the way of how it's happening today can't be the way of the future. And I think this sort of trifecta of capability is the way of how actually that can be tackled, because it's been proven if it's just one company trying to do it themselves, it doesn't happen. And I think that's what's so exciting as part of the proposition moving forward.
Really exciting proposition. But and as John J, Glen, and you, John B, have mentioned, everyone now, because of this pandemic over the past year and a half, everyone has really gone into the digital platform, right? Everyone is now saying, "Oh, I have to." I mean, and no one can live without their smartphone. No one can live without their laptops. Everyone is just so dependent on technology. And now, Glen, there's been an alarming spike in the number of cyber attacks. I mean, when there's good, there's also the bad, the good and the evil. So how are you ensuring that people who use, assured and are safe from cyber thieves or people who aim to steal, identities online?
Yeah, you're quite right, Rico. As we've seen, through 2019 to 2020 and even into 2021, the number of those attacks is, globally continues to climb, unfortunately. And I think, one of the things that we make sure we really try and protect the customer around is it's the quality of the partnerships is the first thing that you want to ensure is there. And
buying insurance was difficult or kind of put off in the past is it was happening out of context. I mean, who wakes up in the morning and I just really want to go buy insurance today. I mean, no one does that, right? But when you're buying that phone, you're buying that phone and it's like, I'm gonna get this device. I'm excited, but I keep hearing about all these hacks. And now it's the context is correct. It's the time to offer that protection because that's when you're thinking about it. And of course, if it's simple and it's easy to buy at the point of sale, our belief is that the acquisition of protection is much more.
It is the most practical way, to acquire insurance. For example, so many agents call you, can I have a meeting with you to talk about life insurance, medical insurance, all kinds of insurance. And you keep on deferring those meetings because you don't really want to talk to the insurance agent. So that insurance agent is now taken away from the equation, and now everything now is embedded. So tell me, John J, since the pilot a couple of months ago, how has Assured been performing? What kind of growth are you forecasting over the next months and years?
Yeah, well, it's early days. We've literally only been at it for a month, and like I said, the importance of the pilot was really, the pilot is really getting started with Chubb and with our bills protect product on eye to eye. We are expecting triple-digit growth. That will be easily achieved. I'm gonna be very excited to come back in the near future and tell you about the first 100,000 Filipinos that we've protected, through our pilot alone. However, it's really the engine. It's really the start, because now that we have the engine, our ability to deliver more products and embed insurance into more digital platforms. And this is one of the reasons why we partner with Coherent, because now on the insurance company side, Coherent can help the insurers rapidly modernize their infrastructure to deliver on this opportunity. I suspect that we will be able to get ourselves embedded and understand all of the myriad of opportunities, or take advantage of the ones that we've discussed today. So it's critically important that the whole value chain becomes digitized, and that's a reason why our partnership with Coherent, for example, is critically important.
So John Jay, how soon before you expand to other territories?
Well, listen, I'm actually happy to share today that while we've had a Singaporean entity for some time, we've actually started operations in Singapore. So we have a small team now in Singapore, and in fact, the insurance platform will be the first UBX platform that can take beyond the Philippines. So we have a critical need in the Philippines, and we'll leverage on that. But we are running part of our insurance platform team out of Singapore specifically so that we can take this to other markets in Southeast Asia.
John, Glen, what kind of challenges do you think does embedded insurance or a service like Assured face going forward? John B.
So I think the ultimate aim is, how do you build a proposition which customers love? That any business model in the world, you have to try and think about what will customers love. And I think the challenge for UBX, Chubb, and Coherent is, how do you build a proposition which customers will really aspire to be wanted to be involved in? So if I think fast forward a year's time, we're having this conversation in a year's time, Rico, that I want to build an experience along with Chubb, along with UBX, where customers are feeling they can buy any insurance proposition at any time and chop and change as they go along. And if we can do that, we're building an experience which is mirroring normal life. And that's basically very different to how insurance works today. But if we can build that experience, it's an experience which is going to last a lifetime and change the perception of what insurance is. So that's the opportunity. It's not a challenge, it's the opportunity. And that's what's so exciting about, and I keep on going back to it, I keep on referring to it, about this proposition. Like, Coherent's bringing world-class technology, UBX is bringing world-class experience, and Chubb's bringing world-class products. And combining that capability and that experience, I think is a winning combination to achieve that customer experience in the future. And that's what I think, if we can aspire towards that, that's what helps the Filipino society, that's what helps the protection gap, and that's what makes insurance a lot better for a lot more people. And that's what gets me out of bed every day.
Glen?
Yeah, I think that the two words that my panelists have used today, which I think are critical, are the intuitive nature and the contextual nature of the process. And what we've seen in other markets across Southeast Asia has been, once you get over that hurdle, then the growth can be quite exponential. You spend those first few months really trying to understand how this is perceived by the customer. You make some small adjustments, you bring in more product and more solutions, and that becomes a snowball where consumers feel confident what they're doing. We bring in more context, more customer journey, as John's talking about, and if we go 1 year, 2 year, 3 years from now, we'll be having very exciting conversations about what's being delivered.
All right, gentlemen, we will now be taking questions from our media attendees. Close to 70 of them are with us. for this 11th edition of E-TalkTales. This morning, I know that they're all excited to ask our speakers, but before that, let me just read a few reminders. Please use the Zoom Q&A function to type in your questions, and also please include your name and the media organization that you represent. And for those who are interested to ask their questions live, please raise your hand and we will unmute your microphone. So, my fellow media colleagues, are you ready to ask John J., John B., and Glen your questions? Here we go. Let's see. Your first question, let me see, from Riz Reyes from the Business Mirror. What technologies will be deployed to ensure a wider insurance coverage? Who would like to answer that question? John?
Well, I'm gonna ask John B., our technology partner.
Yes, John Brisco.
So I think that the easy answer a lot of times is to try and talk technology hyperbole, like you talk about machine learning, AI, blockchain, etc. The reality is, insurance, when you break it down, is trying to think about experience. And what we're trying to provide is a capability for consumers to be able to purchase insurance easily, for that purchase to be able to be transacted easily, and then for a customer to be able to understand their policy end to end. So what we're building is a platform which enables that. And the technology involved is enabling an experience which helps customers' lives become a lot easier. Because customers hate friction. They hate not being able to find information. They hate not being able to know status of applications. They hate not being able to know status of claims. If we can build an experience which basically keeps them informed with technologies which helps them updated via their mobile phones or websites, that's what we think is a winning experience. So that's what the proposition is about. It's basically continually informing clients about how their purchase experience or their claims experience is going. And that's what we're going to be obsessed around. But I'm not going to profess fancy technology because that's not the need at the right now. The right now is making the experience perfect for customers.
All right, thank you so much, John B. Here's a question definitely for you, John J. And you know this theme always comes up in all the discussions. And this is from Bob Reyes from the Manila Bulletin, Tech News. Most Filipinos, hate discussions about insurance. Some Filipinos hate the use/adoption of technology in general. For UBX and Chubb, how do you intend to bring back the confidence of these unconnected Filipinos to patronize insurance services? Let's start off with you first, John J.
Sure. So a couple of things. I think it's a good observation, especially pre-pandemic. There's a bit of inertia. For example, e-commerce lagged the Philippines compared to ASEAN peers up to the pandemic. But the pandemic, a very tragic and unfortunate situation, obviously. However, it has really ushered in, for example, the golden age of e-commerce, and consumers have had to react. They've had to go online out of sheer necessity, and of course, businesses have had to do the same thing. So the first thing I'd suggest is that people are online out of necessity. So if we want to reach those customers, digital, which might have been a little unnatural a couple of years ago, is now a lot more natural and definitely should be leveraged. Younger people as well choose to interact digitally. In fact, what we hear is, look, I don't want to start my insurance journey or my protection journey through a face-to-face transaction. I want, like everything else that I love doing, whether it's on Facebook or TikTok or Spotify, I want to do it digitally, right? And so this is a very natural means to reach that audience. And then lastly, Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the other thing to bring in here is, and Glen, maybe talk about a little bit the product innovation as well, which can be brought to a different segments in society.
Yeah, well, when I think about insurance as an industry, and you try and understand why do people have certain perceptions, they tend to be through one of only a few distinct areas. One is the confusion at the acquisition time, at their first purchase time. And I think how the two Johns have explained that today, that's been a big focus around Assured, that to break down that complexity, to make that simpler and much easier to transact. The other part that I've looked over the last couple of decades and is customers see, well, what real value is there, and value often is perceived to be, well, do claims get paid? And as an insurer, when we've looked at embedded insurance, we expect to have a very high frequency of claims payments, but you can only do that when you embed insurance and use technology like what Assured brings, where if anything happens at any point in time, you want a very seamless claims experience. And one thing that will be important for us as we continue through these next few months is to highlight that to consumers in the Philippines and make them see that process is very simple. And as John B mentioned, that having the ability to innovate, to learn, to bring new product based on that experience that consumers are having, that we identify. And I think what's so exciting here is that it's not just Chubb thinking of something, or just Coherent, or just UBX. We'll have these different perspectives and different learnings because of our interactions with customers, both in the non-insurance area, and we can bring that to bear as we design new products going forward. So I think as we continue to move down this path, we'll address that question wholeheartedly. Thanks, Rico.
All right, there's another question here from the media, and it's from Edsel Lorete. This is for John J. Apart from digital or fintech, how is Unionbank pushing more people with PhilHealth becoming problematic with their hospital bill claim system to get insured? In particular, are Filipinos needing insurance support in the province?
So again, I think Assured is how we will, through platforms like i2i, our very own i2i, but also the platforms of others. Think of platforms like Lazada, Shopee, Grab, these other platforms. Some of them with decent reach to the provinces as well. Our i2i platform very specifically targets community-based financial service providers in the more remote provincial locations. So part of it is accessibility and making it available through those platforms. Beyond Assured, we are also actively looking at how other financial services are delivered in the Philippines. And I alluded today about our Ccap Platform, which provides access to reasonably priced credit from reputable lenders to MSMEs. And we do that, it's just like Assured. We embed Ccap into platforms like Lazada, and a merchant on Lazada in the Lazada merchant experience can click a button to apply for credit. They authorize the sharing of some sales data, and that allows the lenders to approve credit on the spot. And so we will, when it comes to things like health, beyond just the insurance company, we are working on treat now, pay later type solutions where we will lend, or we will augment insurance cover as well, so that, for example, you can get healthcare, and pay at a later date. Everybody knows what happens today. You get treated, and if you don't pay the bill, if you pay the bill in full, they keep you in the facility. And it's kind of like a vicious circle, right? So ultimately, it's Assured, but we are also innovating on other financial services to further alleviate the
Okay, there's a follow-up question here.
that they're alluding to. Yeah.
There's a follow-up question here, John J. from Millet Hizon. So, I mean, they're assured, right? But how?
Automatically paid. We're looking at, again, for some of our platforms, insurance for farmers, where if the rainfall is above or below a certain threshold, it will just automatically pay. No one actually has to make a claim. It will just pay out because the data is monitored.
There's a question here from July Rada from the Manila Standard. And here's the question. The Insurance Commission institutionalized the remote selling of insurance products via video conferencing technologies through circular letter number 2020-109. This is quite specific, but the problem is the slow internet in most part of the Philippines. How is this going to affect the growth of this industry? John.
Shall I go first on that?
Yes. Yeah. Off with you, Ben.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think when you think about that that particular change, you're really talking about products that are a lot more complicated than what we are talking about here today. That need that explanation, that need someone to sort of guide them through. You know, it's more of a financial consultation, retirement planning type of insurance coverage, and probably more in that agent type, you know, environment that you spoke about earlier, Rico. So, yeah, that will be something that continues to evolve, but that's really not where we see this partnership going in the over these next few years. It's about making a customer be able to make those decisions all by themselves by having that information put in front of them in a very seamless way. So while that's sort of interesting, it probably won't be something in the early stages that we would look at. But John, please add.
Yeah, I attest to that. I think the life insurance sector obviously has very complicated products, whether it's unit-linked products, etc., which mandatedly, quite rightly, an advisor should be needing to interact with a consumer to help sell that product. But if you think about some of the products which John talked about before, whether it's bill protection, in the future it's probably going to be things like home protection, cyber protection, etc. These are products which a consumer should be able to understand what exactly they're buying, the exact coverage they're getting, the exact premium they're paying for, and thus a transaction they can actually interact on the spot and understand what that means going forward. So as Glen said, very different experience. I think that what the media analysts point out is a very, very good question around like more complex products. It's a big problem in the Philippines life insurance sector, but for us, what we're trying to do is make other products much more accessible to the vast consumer population and make it accessible very fast, because we feel those products are really needed, and they're really needed now.
Here's another question from the media, from James Humarang from Tech and Lifestyle Journal. Is it time to really democratize insurance products that more consumers can really afford? How are new insurance products designed these days to address the needs of the times?
Really good question. That's a really good question. Glen, over to you.
well, yeah, I could. It'll carry on a little bit from what we've spoken about, but when I see the type of products that we as an insurer are designing today, they are totally different to what they were when I started in the industry, and probably even totally different to even 5 years ago. And and as an insurer, we're learning all the time by partnering with people like UBX and Coherent, because we're learning more about customers and how they interact and what's important to them. We sell policies now that are as low as 15 cents, and millions of them. We would never have even contemplated that as a company 5 to 10 years ago. Rather than trying to make a product look so fantastic because it's got 35 different features, it's saying let's address those 2 or 3 features that are the most critical for individual consumers, how do we put them in a process, in a behavior that the customer is already experiencing, and bring it down to its simplest form, and that someone can acquire and we can communicate back to them. So this the word sort of democratize, I agree, it's a word we speak about a lot within our industry as well, because we see the under-penetration and the need to find more and more solutions. So that's how we look at it as an insurer. But we need partners that have the technology, that have the consumer insights like Coherent and UBX have to work together to figure that out.
Yeah, our tagline for UBX, and it's certainly true for the other platforms I've talked about, and it's most certainly true for Assured. Our tagline is to include everybody. I think that speaks directly to this concept of democratizing access. And with Assured, that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to create a positive flywheel effect here. So leveraging on the learnings of Glen and Chubb for the types of products, bite-sized, small ticket products that can be delivered at scale, starting with those on our Assured platform, but at the same time creating an engine that can support multiple carriers, multiple products. They get delivered through these digital channels at scale, very economically, and we learn. And based on that learning, we can craft new products, or we can propose new products that fit very specifically to specific individuals in specific contexts. And then the Coherent team working with insurers to actually bring those products, to modernize their systems and bring those products to market very quickly. And then, of course, they get into our platform, and we learn again. It's positive flywheel effect. So great question, because I think that's exactly what we're trying to do with Chubb.
There's a question here for you, Glen, from Ed Uy, from Where is Ed Uy? Was there an increase in the number of those who availed of insurance products during this pandemic?
Yeah, great question. And probably maybe a surprising answer. If I talk about it from a sort of Asia or Southeast Asia perspective, it was very different over, say, the 18 months that we've had during the pandemic. And it's really been geographic related to where the pandemic was at any period of time. As you can imagine, things like travel insurance went down to zero almost. But what we did see is in places where the pandemic was not as prevalent for certain periods. If you take the middle of last year in Thailand, or even towards the beginning of this year, a lot more insurance was being sold in that particular market. But what we saw in places that were having outbreaks, and Philippines was one of those, is actually less insurance was being bought, and a big reason for that was the ability to access the customer base. And I think what we're talking about today addresses that need, that regardless of whether people are working from home and only on their phone or their laptop, these type of products are now much more accessible. You don't need to visit a branch or have an agent come to see you in order to take the cover up. And that's what is even more exciting for us as an insurer, that no matter what is going on in the world, this technology and this capability that UBX and Coherent and us are bringing to Filipinos will enable that purchase behavior to be maintained no matter what happens as we go forward into the future.
Yeah, it's an amazing point, Glen. I think sometimes we talk about the term embedded insurance. I think the other term we could use is everyday life insurance, right? Or everyday, or where basically you think about what do you need insurance for and how do you make that accessible. And if you look at obviously the demographic of the Philippines population, how young it is and how vibrant it is, people live day to day and live week to week, and how can you offer insurance propositions to those consumers that make it so much more accessible? That's a challenge that we've got to kind of address, and if we address that, what an opportunity for everyone.
Gentlemen, where do you see embedded insurance, let's say over the next 5 to 10 years? How will it grow exponentially? What other services can we expect from the current crop of services that are already being offered?
Maybe I'll start from a technology point of view, and then I think it'd be very useful for Glen and then John to provide different experiences. So generally speaking, from a Coherent perspective, we think the embedded market over the next 10 years is going to be $1 trillion market. And that globally, how big that opportunity is around a population of more younger adults, more younger population wanting a different experience of how they acquire insurance. They're going to live in digital ecosystems. They're going to want to buy in digital ecosystems. And the way of how basically they want insurance means that embedded insurance is going to be the way I think how insurance is purchased to begin with before people gravitate to more complex products. So I think what we're trying to get on top of Chubb, Assurance, and obviously Coherent is being at the start of the journey and being there for the long term, and the opportunity which exists with there. But it is going to be the way of how consumers think about insurance in the future. If you think 10 years time, the notion of how they buy insurance, they'll think about buying insurance in digital ecosystems. And if you're part of that, it's going to be a massive kind of opportunity for consumers, for insurers, and for partners like obviously Assurant, who have obviously got a fantastic business model. And John, you might want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I agree. The opportunity in the Philippines, as we've measured it, even in the nearer term, it's likely. So,
your audio, John J. is
am I cutting out?
Yes.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. I think you just have
Okay.
to the mic.
I might have been. You know what? I might have been leaning back too far. I was agreeing with John that the way our research suggests that even the near to midterm opportunity in the Philippines for embedded insurance is hundreds of billions of pesos potentially, and it largely has to do with the protection gap, the size of the protection gap. We truly believe that, if you think like you always thought, you'll get what you always got. So we have to do it differently. Something has to give. We have to do it differently. We believe that simplification, embedding into the experiences that matter will allow the protection gap to start to close. 5 years from now, I think what happens, and John alluded to it just at the end there of his answer, people will get a taste of protection. It'll be easier, but they'll get a taste of protection, and that will naturally lead them to higher value, potentially more complex, but with a greater level of understanding of the value, and that will lead naturally to the higher value product. So again, I think a different kind of positive flywheel where we leverage disaggregation, simplification, virtualization, embedding to give people a taste. And 5 years from now, I think the kind of more sophisticated products that are being offered by the traditional insurance companies, number one, they'll be much more digitized because of this experience. But they'll be a larger part of the population will be open to those discussions. In fact, they'll be wanting to have those discussions because they've actually gotten a taste and they understand the value.
Glenn?
Yeah, look for Chubb in Asia, there's no bigger priority, we see the growth potential over the next 5 years is it's just huge, and what we've experienced over the last 3 or 4 years points us all in that direction, and I think the big thing that needed to happen to achieve that was technology needed to come to the fore, and and partners like UBX and Coherent to help us figure out how to do this, right? And if I think about other channels, non-embedded, there's no growth happening there, because people want a different experience. Consumers want a different experience. And what we've seen in Southeast Asia and in the gig economy, and where products can be included in a customer journey, where it's intuitive, it's at the right context, as the guys have said, we see huge upside, and it's extremely exciting. And if anything, we're just impatient to get after more of it and bring more products. And you'll see that happen in the Philippines over the next 6, 12, 18 months. This is only the beginning.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before, Rico. The perfect example, I think, that any Filipino can relate to: you're buying an iPhone or a laptop, or obviously a Mac. That should be the point of time when you're buying a cyber insurance product as part of the experience. If you make it as simple to do that, then you're buying an embedded experience, which basically is seamless, versus asking someone to try and buy a cyber product offline. It just doesn't make sense. And I think if we can make that happen, and I think everyone knows how much, obviously, Filipinos love kind of new telephones and new kind of laptops, then we're going to be halfway to solving the problem. And I think that's the massive opportunity.
And John B., if you say that this will be a $1 trillion industry or even more over the next 5 to 10 years, definitely. And of course, there will be a lot more competition with embedded insurance. So, I mean, like yourself, Chubb and UBX, you'll just have to continue to innovate.
So it comes down to simple things. And this is why I think I keep on talking about the trifecta, right? So the technology has to be seamless, the product has to be great, and then the distribution of how you actually help customers acquire that experience is what brings it together. And it's up to the three parties here to make that happen. Like, we can talk about it, but that's the value add. That's why we think we've got a differentiated proposition in the Philippines. And that's why we think if we bring it together, then it'll be something which consumers will just love. If we can do that, then the possibility gets massive. And that's why we're excited to partner together. And obviously I'm speaking for Glen and John there, but I think that is the reality of what we're trying to bring. Like it's a combination of the different party strengths, because as Glen said, like, the eyes have been open for working with parties like us, for John for working for us, and for us working with them, and that's what we think is an amazing opportunity. And then obviously we want to bring that to every consumer in the Philippines.
All right, we have a couple of minutes left before the end of our 11th edition of the E-TalkTales. And there's just one final question from one of our media participants. I think with the pandemic, people are still not keen on letting go of their savings.
Oh,
because a lot of people have lost their jobs. People are just staying at home. They have their savings. They're not willing to let it go, maybe for an insurance product. How exactly do insurance companies lower the premiums of their products but still manage to make the coverages more appealing to the public, especially to those who were hesitant to get one? Is this possible?
So I'll start, John, and please.
All right.
John,
okay, the final word. One more, so John B, and then Glen, and then John J.
All I was going to do was pass it to these guys to tell you how this happens, because literally that's what embedded insurance is about. It's about providing affordability in the right product and right suitability at the right time, rather than paying for something you might not need. And then I'll pass it on to John and Glen to kind of bring that to kind of the fore of how that happens.
Glen?
Yeah. So look, I think what we've been able to do here is pricing of insurance really comes down to understanding the segment, to understanding the benefit that you're trying to deliver, and to find the most cost-effective way to get that product to the end customer. And I mentioned earlier, we have products in the region that are as low as 15 cents US. Sorry, I can't do the quick math to peso there. But what we do with that is we identify, what's critical for the consumer base that we're marketing to. You know, what type of coverage do they really need? They don't need all these things off to the side, these other benefits which are not relevant, and that makes it very much more affordable. And then delivering it in a very affordable way. If you don't have a massive agency force running around trying to sell to people, or branches and big networks, then again that reduces the cost a lot. And so that's a big part of this whole discussion today, and why as an insurance company we are so keen to push further along into the future. John, I'll hand it to you to wrap that up.
John, you finish.
Yeah, well, this is perfect. I mean, you guys made it so easy. All I get to do right now is repeat both of you guys. However, it's worth repeating. I think it is worth repeating. Exactly what John and Glen said. Lower premiums are the result of three things. Number one, simplifying the products. Just delivering what's actually needed by the actual person in the actual context. Number two, lowering the cost of distribution, and digital is the game changer. Digital allows you to distribute to a hugely large base at extremely low cost. And lastly, the data. The data that's collected by these digital platforms allows the insurance providers, the people taking on the risk, to optimize their underwriting and much more confidently extend this cover at a much lower or reduced rate. So simplification, digital, and that's exactly what this partnership is all about. That's exactly what Assured is.
On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us in this question and answer segment with the media. Very interesting issues that were discussed. I learned a lot from this media Q&A.